It's finally Jon Jones fight week, and the cons or the downside to that statement is that this card, this pay-per-view card that's going to cost you $80 is straight up buns. Booty cheeks, okay? But the upside to that sentence is that this whole Jones versus Stipe thing will finally be over, okay? It will finally be over. This fight has been meant to happen a long time ago. It got to the point where this fight just doesn't make any sense anymore. But it's still going to go on. We can't stop it. The card sucks. Miocic is like 80 years old. Jon is ducking the real interim heavyweight champion. Here we are. We're going to go through. I'll give you the leans for every single fight on the card. Prelims are Main card is definitely not worth $80. So if you got a resource that you can go to, you might have to go that way, all right? Because this one is just not worth it whatsoever. We'll scroll all the way to the bottom. We'll start it with some women's MMA. Reminder, these are early picks. Okay, watch my official picks video later in the week. That's after further research. This is where I get to show you where my head's at with every single fight. Because I know I get a lot of DMs. People ask me, what do you think about this fight? This is where you watch it. Veronica Hardy, Eduarda Moura. Veronica Hardy has had a nice little resurgence to her career, okay? Getting with Dan Hardy. Dan Hardy, very, very solid mind. Really intricate with his game plans. I think that has really helped Veronica Hardy because Veronica Hardy has some talent, but she never really put it all together. She goes down to flyweight. That's definitely her weight class. Maybe she could even be a strawweight, but I think she's been putting a lot of muscle with her lifting. So flyweight's probably a good spot, but she's won 3 in a row. She's looked solid. She's been in some close fights, but she's toughed it out. Got the win. I'm worried for her here against Eduarda Moura, especially as the favorite. I know this is the early picks, but I also like to give you some insight onto the betting odds in this one. Veronica Hardy's about minus 155. Eduarda Moura, coming off her first loss. I don't know that she should be an underdog here. Okay, she's got insanely strong grappling, good jiu-jitsu, top pressure is solid. It's just at 115, she's not a strawweight. Okay, she's massive. She's cutting a ton of weight. Her cardio was not good in her last fight against Diniz Gomes, and I bet on Diniz Gomes because I know Gomes is very tough to finish, and she's gonna have a solid 15 minutes of cardio with big power. And Gomes cashed for me as an underdog there, but Eduarda Moura moving up to flyweight, she's still going to be big. She's going to have the wrestling. She's going to have the grappling. And I think her cardio will be better. So I'm tending to lean towards the Eduarda Moura side because Veronica Hardy can be taken down. She can be controlled on the ground. There's no doubt about it. Hardy's going to be the better striker here. But the problem is, Veronica's not a very high volume striker. She uses a lot of movement. She'll kind of stick and move. But if she's just sticking and moving and then Eduarda Moura gets one takedown per round with 2-3 minutes of top control, she's going to win. Okay, so I think Eduarda Moura is a solid underdog right now. She's going to be my early pick. And we'll move on to the welterweight fight here. Basil Hafez and Oban Elliott. So this question actually came up in the Sunday Service live stream. I think it was last week or the week before. My thoughts on this fight. And I thought Basil Hafez would be the favorite. Not a ton of reasoning behind that. I guess the reasoning would be, Hafez coming off a win. He looked great against Jack Della. He was like a minus 300 favorite his last fight. And some would say it was a close fight against Mickey Gall. We'll talk about Mickey Gall next fight. But some would say it was a close fight. But Basil has pretty solid cardio. The short notice fight against Jack Della, he kind of slowed down. And he slowed down a little bit against Mickey Gall, but he's able to work through it. He's got an insane chin. He hits pretty hard, even though he doesn't have that many knockouts. He hits pretty hard. And he has really solid wrestling and really solid grappling. The dude is very well-rounded, and he's very durable, and he has decent cardio. So I thought the upside would be there for him to be a favorite in this matchup, but apparently the books like Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott is the favorite, and Oban, I've liked what I've seen from Oban. I'm usually a big hater on the Welch fighters, specifically Jack Shore, but I'm usually a big hater, but I actually like Oban Elliott. I like his style. He tries to push a pace, tries to grind on you. I think his striking could definitely use a lot of improvements, but his wrestling overall is solid. Showed good takedown defense his last time out against Preston Parsons. He's looked good. Okay, he's 2-0 in the UFC, but that's against Val Woodburn. And then the win against Preston Parsons looks a little bit better to me. So maybe that's why he's the favorite here. But I am tending to lean towards Basil Hafez, because Basil has had a tough career before he got to the UFC. And he's looked okay. He's looked pretty good in the UFC. So I'm actually leaning towards Basil Hafez just as an underdog. But I could see this being a very, very close fight going to a decision. It could go either way. Basil Hafez is the early lean. Mickey Gall, Ramiz Brahimaj. I don't know why Brahimaj is still in the UFC. The same could probably be said about Mickey Gall. But I have seen a lot more improvements from Mickey Gall. His last fight against Basil, I thought his jab looked good. I thought his ability to take a punch looked better. I thought his cardio looked pretty solid. And he dogged it out, man. He dogged it out, and I think that's something you could bring into this next one. You know, the win didn't go your way, but you showed out. You had a good performance. You didn't get the win, but you come into here against a lesser opponent, against Ramiz Brahimaj, who I just don't think is very good. I don't think his striking is very good. All this guy really has is some really nice back takes and the ability to get you out there with a submission. But he's getting submissions against low-level guys. Cardio's not very good. And the way that Temba was kind of throwing this guy around. I mean, Temba's very, very strong, but Brahimaj had little to no success in that fight. And I think he comes in here, he's probably on the chopping block with the UFC. Maybe Mickey Gall is too. I think he's lost 3 straight, and he had a long layoff. But I think Mickey Gall could get this one done. I think he'll be a little bit sharper on the feet. I know he trains at Killcliff. Killcliff's a great camp down here in Florida. I think Killcliff improves guys striking rapidly. And we saw the improvements last time out. I think it's only going to get a little bit better. So I'm going to take Mickey Gall for the early pick. Marcin Tybura, Jonathan Diniz. So Diniz was supposed to fight 2 weeks ago on the Edmonton card. Derek Lewis pulls off. They stick him on here. So it's a short notice fight for both guys. I don't know if Tybura was preparing for a fight. I don't think he was. But I think Tybura, he sees the opportunity here. He's going to take this fight. He sees the opportunity to be on a pay-per-view prelim against an up-and-coming guy who you could maybe go in there and exploit his takedown defense. I think Tybura, that's what he's thinking. Could it happen? Yeah. I mean, I think Tybura could probably get him down to the ground early on. But what does he do from there? I don't know if Diniz is a tied to Ivasa on the ground. He could be. We don't know. We don't really know. I don't think Diniz's takedown defense is amazing. I don't think his ground game is good at all. So I'm kind of tending to lean towards Tybura just because I think the takedown will be there. But we've seen Tybura chinned many a times. I know Diniz is going to be a lot faster. He's a lot younger. His career trajectory is on the up and up. I think this guy could definitely clip Tybura. But I'm tending to lean just with Tybura's wrestling, the experience, and just the overall IQ of a fight. I think Tybura could probably get this one done. He had a tough fight his last time out against Sergey Spivak, where he got taken down and subbed. Bad look, but he's not going to get subbed by Diniz. Okay, if he goes down to the ground with Diniz, he's going to be levels above him there. So, tended to lean with Tybura here. He'll be the early pick. Onama and Almeida, I believe, is canceled. But I think it is. 99% sure it's canceled. But Onama probably would have won that one. We'll move on. Jim Miller and Damon Jackson. So, if you know me, I got some beef with Damon Jackson. I made a video on him getting knocked out, like a highlight reel of him getting knocked out, because this dude gets knocked out. When this dude gets knocked out, he gets knocked out in brutal fashion. And I just wanted to show the people, be like, oh my God, Damon Jackson, real good fighter. But the way that this guy falls when he gets knocked out is crazy. Okay, Elliott, Topuria, Dan Ige, regional. The dude gets knocked out in crazy fashion. But at the end of the day, he's a good fighter. And I said that in the video, but apparently this guy, a little bit sensitive. He's moving up to lightweight. I think that's a good move. Damon is a pretty big featherweight. Not super muscular, but he's pretty tall, pretty long. And I can understand at his age that he would want to move up to 155. I think this is a winnable matchup for Damon Jackson. Jim Miller, 48 million years old. A lot of miles on the clock. He had his nice little last hurrah at UFC 300. Nearly had Bobby Green out of there. I think it was in round 1. Stunned him, looked good, but after that, Bobby was just piecing him up. You know, Jim Miller, great grappler, underrated power, but I think Damon's just going to be a little bit too sticky for him. I think Damon's probably going to... He has decent striking. I actually have liked his striking coming along. When he got in the UFC, I don't think it was that great, but I think he's actually made some improvements. I think he's just going to be a little bit too sticky. I think he's going to be pumping that jab, looking to clinch him up against the cage, looking to take the back. And I think his cardio will be a lot better at lightweight. I do think that. I mean, he's never had terrible cardio, but the pace that Chepe Morisco put on him was just like, nobody could keep up with that. And if you're weight drained, it's not going to feel good at all. So I think at 155, Damon will have better cardio. And I think he'll just be able to wear on Jim Miller a little bit to where Jim Miller is going to slow down. Damon Jackson's going to get his spots. He's going to like to take the back, and I think he probably pulls this one off. So I'll take Damon Jackson for the early pick, even though we got beef. I do think you win this one, brother. Chris Weidman, Eric Anders. Don't really know how I would feel about betting Eric Anders at minus anything, honestly. Chris Weidman, he's got one leg. And his latest win is Bruno Silva, who is just awful. Awful. Like, I watched that guy, I just want to throw up. So I can't really be, excited about that win against Bruno Silva. He comes in here. Obviously, the crowd's going to be on his side. Eric Anders, decent fighter, but he's just so slow. His takedown attempts, I don't think, are very good. I think if Weidman can start to get in the groove a little bit, I think he can build off the momentum, kind of like he did against Bruno Silva. Eric Anders not really the fastest starter. I think if Chris Weidman can get off to a hot start, I think he can just inch his way closer to a win throughout this fight. I don't know if he's going to knock out Eric Anders. Anders is not really a guy that gets knocked out very much. And I think if Anders goes for takedowns on Weidman, I don't think Weidman's not going to look bad in those spots by any means. Great grappler, great wrestler. On the feet, I think Weidman could maybe even look better on the feet. So I'm tending to lean with Chris Weidman. As crazy as it seems in my head, I think I'm tending to lean with Chris Weidman in this one. He'll be my early pick. All right, Marcus McGhee and Jonathan Martinez. Great matchup here for the feature prelim. How is Jonathan Martinez going to bounce back after the Jose Aldo loss? That's going to be a big question for me coming in here because he looked like a scared little boy in that octagon in Brazil. He looked very, very scared. You know why? Because this dude is used to fighting at the Apex. The dude had pretty much, I don't know, it was like 5 or 6 straight fights at the Apex. I think the only one that wasn't was at the Virgin Hotels in Las Vegas, which is a very, very small venue. I don't know that this guy does very good under the bright lights, and it showed his last time out. So how does he bounce back here? He's getting a lesser opponent in Marcus McGhee. Marcus McGee's wins in the UFC, not great. But he's looked great in those wins. So you can't take that away from him. His wins are Journey Newsom, JP Buys, and Gaston Bolanos. So I guess Gaston winning last week looks a little bit better for him. But those are low-level guys. Very inexperienced. Marcus should beat them. He did. How is he going to look against Jonathan Martinez? What does Jonathan Martinez do? He's just going to want to sit there and kick your legs. I think McGee's movement will look pretty good. The problem is Marcus McGhee loves to box. He loves to box, and when you're boxing, you got to be rooted to the ground a little bit. And that's a problem because Jonathan Martinez is just going to whip in leg kicks while you're rooted to the ground, and it takes out your legs, and you can't really land your boxing combinations when your legs are getting kicked out. That was evident in the Adrian Yanez and Jonathan Martinez fight. So we could see flashbacks to that in this one. But if Marcus McGhee can get some forward pressure going, if he can get Jonathan Martinez on the back foot, force him to box, kind of like Jose Aldo did, he's going to have a lot of success. So I think this one's kind of a toss-up. I think it's a 50-50. I think McGhee Still very green. Although I think he's very good, he's still very old. I mean, he's not young. He's not super old, but he's not young. Still early in his UFC career. I don't know how he's going to look under the bright lights either, because he's been at the apex every fight. So big moment for Marcus McGhee. I do tend to lean his way just because I think the guy has solid footwork from the outside. I think his entries look good. I think his wrestling looks good. And I think overall he's just going to hit Martinez a little bit too hard to where he has to respect what's coming at him. He can't really chop the legs too much. So I am tending to lean Marcus McGhee in this one. I'll take him for the early pick. To the main card, Mauricio Ruffy and James Llontop. So apparently Mauricio Ruffy is the best fighter out of the Fighting Nerds. He's only had one UFC fight. But apparently through the grapevine, the coach said Mauricio Ruffy is the best out of all four of them. Out of John Silva, out of Carlos Prates, out of Kyle Bahalia. It's a big take. It's a hot take because everybody that I just named has looked flawless. So if this guy is really that good, he should go in there and mop the floor with James Llontop. The thing is, James Llontop has a pretty damn good chin. The dude has a crazy good chin. But if anybody can crack it, it's going to be a Fighting Nerds guy. Okay, Fighting Nerds just know how to hit people in spots where they're vulnerable. Their fight IQ, they know how to create angles, they know how to set up shots. Mauricio Ruffy, in all honesty, he's probably going to go out there, use his movement, pick his shots, land that little step back right hand, do some wild shit. I could honestly see a submission too, just because we saw Ruffy just fucking around with Jamie Malarkey going for that scissor kick takedown or something like that for a leg lock. Some dumb shit like that. He was just playing with them. I could see something like that because I think Llontop's jiu-jitsu's ground game is not good. I don't think Llontop wins by any means. So I'm going to take Mauricio Ruffy for the early pick. He'll definitely be the official pick. He's going to get this one done probably around 1 or 2. Women's flyweight. We got Viviane Araujo and Karine Silva. So, interesting one here because we got two Brazilians, both muscular. I don't know their sexual preference, but I do tend to lean it is the same. So, Karine Silva, I think she's got big power on the feet, very low volume, but she's composed. She can be hit, but she has very strong takedowns, very solid jiu-jitsu. She's a big favorite in this matchup. I don't know if I would agree, but I do think she wins. I think Karine Silva wins, but Viviane, very experienced. She's tough. She's durable. She's got good cardio, got good wrestling, decent striking. But overall, I think Karine will probably just hit her a little bit harder throughout the fight. I think she'll land a little bit more takedowns, scrape by with a little bit more control time. I think she probably gets her hand raised. So I think Karine Silva is going to be my early pick. I think she probably wins this one, but I know she's a big favorite. And I think her wins in the UFC are not very good, and maybe she's getting a little bit too much respect, but I do think she wins. It's kind of one of those where she's like minus 275 or something like that. She probably looks minus 150, but still wins. So I'll take her. She got that cheat code, too, the big-ass hair. How you supposed to hit that girl? Come on. She's going on a takedown on you. You're blind. Okay? Let's move on. Bo Nickal, Paul Craig. So, I love me some Bear Jew. Because the guy sucks on the feet. He's awful. But once that fight hits the ground, man, then it gets interesting. And my question to Bo Nickal is this fight going to hit the ground? Because if it hits the ground, Paul Craig got a dangerous ground game. He's a big underdog here. Obviously, Bo Nickal's going to be the pick. He's going to be the official pick later in the week. He's the early pick now. But Bo Nickal's still very green. I don't really understand how much hype Bo Nickal gets. Like, I know he's an amazing wrestler. But amazing wrestling doesn't always translate to MMA. It's a great base to have, but you need to have all the skills. If Bo comes in here too hot-headed, goes for a takedown, gets himself in a bad spot, could panic. Could panic. He's in a triangle. He's panicking. Boom. Your arm's ripped off by Paul Craig. Okay? This is just the worst that could happen. But in all reality, I think Bo probably is just going to stand and strike with Paul Craig. Because I think Paul Craig, he's awful on the feet. Like, he's really bad. I don't know how he's never improved it. All he's really got is a body kick. Other than that, dude is a punching bag. So I think Bo Nickal could maybe find a knockout on the feet. Bo Nickal's the early pick. Let's move on from that layup of a fight. Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. So the rematch, the first fight, Michael Chandler almost knocked him out. Comes into round 2, Charles Oliveira knocks him out. The thing is with this, the layoffs with these guys is crazy. Crazy layoffs. I guess not really with Charles because he fought on 300 against Armin, but he's had 2 fights in 2 years. He fought like once a year. Chandler hasn't fought since, was it UFC 281? It's UFC 281 against Poirier? Is that his last fight? It was a long time ago. I don't know why he finally caved in to not fighting Conor, but I guess he just wants to get in there and show out a little bit. But he's getting a tough matchup, man. Like, I know Michael Chandler is just a crazy man. He throws hard, no fight IQ. He's got great wrestling, got pretty solid submission defense. I mean, Charles had his back in the first fight, and Chandler was able to get out of it. The thing is, I don't think Chandler can keep the pace up that he does for that long. I think that's kind of why, you know, he's had success against Charles in the first round, and then he dropped off. He got clipped. He had success against Dustin Poirier, and then he dropped off. He got submitted in the third round. I think as the fight goes on, his fight IQ just gets even worse. But early on, he's going to be dangerous. So if Chandler's going to win, it's probably going to be early on. I just don't know that I think Charles will be keen to it. I think Charles will be able to land a lot of knees up the middle. I think he'll be able to land a good amount of kicks at range, and his hands are sharp. Obviously, if he gets him down to the ground, Charles is going to be in the wheelhouse there. But, you know, maybe Chandler has looked at the fights with Armin and Islam, and he's like, yo, if I can take this guy down, be safe in the guard, then I can win. You know, there's a great chance that he could do that, but I don't really think he's going to because he wants the Conor McGregor fight. If he went in there and just did what Armin and I guess what Armin did because Islam finished him, but if he did what Armin did was pretty much take him down and lay in his guard, probably not going to get the Conor fight. So Charles Oliveira is the early pick. Very weird one, though. Very weird. Just weird rematch to make. Let's move on. Jon Jones, Stipe Miocic. Hate the fight. Hate everything about it. It was great when it was like a year ago. Like, great. You know, Jones gonna fight Stipe. He just fought in March the year before. And then a year has passed. Tom Aspinall is the guy. And he just doesn't want to fight him. This is the fight that they have really come to make. I mean, Stipe hasn't won a fight in like 4 years. It's really tough to think that Stipe could come in here and beat Jon. But, you know, Stipe, the thing about Jon's great he's great everywhere, but he's not like amazing in one aspect. So he doesn't have big knockout power. I don't really think he has like crazy jiu-jitsu. Like people are gonna be like, oh, he ran through Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane's ground game sucks. I don't think he's a potent finisher. Maybe at heavyweight with the skill gap, he can expose that, but Stipe pretty solid everywhere. I do tend to think that the fight will play out a little bit closer than the odds entail, but with Stipe's age, with Stipe's layoff, it's just like, I don't know, can we really believe in this, you know? So Jon Jones is the early pick. He'll probably be the official pick. But just disgusting fight. I'm boycotting it. I might just burn a Jon Jones shirt or something like that. Let me know in the comments if you want me to burn a Jon Jones shirt because I'm really debating it. He's talking all this shit, saying Aspinall ain't done anything. Bro, he's got more wins than you since your last fight. He's got more title defenses. This is your first title defense. And you want to fight a 42-year-old. Come on. Come on. I think he's trolling. I actually think he's trolling. But Jon Jones is the early pick. Part of me just doesn't even want to watch it. All right, I'm rambling. But those are the early picks. Appreciate you for watching. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be back here throughout the week with the official picks and the best bet show later. Hey, Jive Picks.